thank you guys again for joining us on another episode of the Freely Roaming Podcast. This is episode 16. And in this episode, we're going to bring you an interview that we did with a fellow traveler. He is somebody who has been traveling for a long time, and we followed also on Instagram for a long, long time. I'm sure a lot of you have as well. He is known for his hashtag Find Momo series. And for those of you who know, of course, we're talking about Andrew Knapp. He is a friend of ours that we met a couple of years ago while we're traveling through Mexico. He was coming down with a friend of his in his bay window Type 2 Volkswagen Westfalia bus. And we spent a couple of weeks together traveling together. And since then, we've tried to meet up in a few other places every chance we get. And the last time we saw him was the year before we came to Europe. And as a matter of fact, he was in Europe for about a few months after we got here, before he went back to North America. He had shipped his van over here for, I want to say almost a year. And we didn't get to see him here, unfortunately. So we haven't seen him for more than 2 years now. So we were very, very excited to talk to him in this podcast. And I want to thank Andrew for agreeing to doing this with us. This being our first ever interview that we've done, official long-form interview that we've done. So thank you, Andrew. And without further ado, I want to present you guys episode 16 of the Freely Roaming Podcast, featuring Andrew Knapp of Find Momo. Thank you for doing this with us. It's not just for the podcast. We're also very excited to see you.
Yeah, that's really why I just want to talk to you guys. It's been too long. Typically by now I would have seen you on the road somewhere.
It's true.
By this point, it's been at least 2 years.
In 2017, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That is a long time. I mean, yeah. Your kids have gone through multiple lifetimes since last time I saw them.
Well, obviously it's harder for us to see the difference of them growing, but we just looked at a picture of them on the airplane on the way to Europe, and I'm like,
that's a big difference.
The food here is making them grow fast.
It's a year for them is 5 years for us.
Well, it's like your new puppy, right? He's full grown now?
Yeah. By the time I see you next time, I'll just have 2 old dogs. Momo will be 35.
How's he doing?
Momo's doing well. I realized that summer is good for him because he swims a lot. And,
right. Low impact.
The last time I saw him really thriving was in Europe. And I think I think the reason for that is because we were pulling over and I was finding rivers for him to swim in and lakes for him to swim in all the time. And so then we got back here and probably had a lazy summer and a lazy winter, and then another lazy summer and then another lazy winter. And this summer was not lazy. This summer I started running him more and swimming him more, and he's feeling a lot better. I'm like, oh, it was swimming. It's the best thing you can do. And I was trying all these things to try to manage his arthritis. I was doing the laser treatment. I was doing all this other stuff. And swimming was just this no-brainer. Why don't you just do some physiotherapy? Just do stuff.
Right. And he loves it anyways.
Yeah. It's he's happy swimming.
And he's doing good with the new pup.
Yeah, it's quite funny. He's definitely older brother vibes. And
let me show you around.
Momo is the only dog that Boo really fully respects. Boo messes with other dogs and plays with them rough and everything. And when it comes to Momo, he'll give him occasional kisses. And he'll bug him to play once in a while, but mostly he's just hey, I respect you, older brother.
Right. That's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, people will say that it's a good dog, but I think a lot has to do with the owner knowing how to manage, right? I mean, essentially,
it's definitely both.
Right, you're the leader of the pack, so they gotta know where they sit.
Yeah, I'm always trying to check in to see if they really think I'm alpha.
Test them out.
Yeah, it's true. I've heard conflicting theories actually. Like some people recently I heard have said, like dogs don't look at humans as part of their pack. So I don't know what to believe anymore.
Yeah. Like you're just some strange alien.
You're
for some reason always hovering over me and giving me food.
Right. There's a source of food. That's why. Yeah. That's why they stick around.
If we had like this all-knowing creature that was like glorious and made of light, like my shirt, and it would just like descend upon us and be like, "Here is your bounty for the day," and it gives us this like glorious plate of fruit and cake. We're like, "How do you do it, God? I don't care. I love you. I'll respect you because you do this for me."
And with that analogy, we don't look at this glorious thing that floats down as another human that's part of our group. We look at that thing as like at another level, like,
oh my God,
not part
nature.
of us.
It's just nature, the bounties of nature, and we just appreciated it, and some of us respect it. I think if we're raised to respect it, then we do, right? And then that's the same thing with the good owner for a dog. If you raise your dog in a good way, in a respectful way, in a loving way, it will respect and love you back. And then if we're raised in a culture and a society where we're not raised to respect nature, and we're raised to become terrible capitalists and spoil nature and like jet ski around in goldfish ponds, then we're probably not going to respect nature, and it's not going to respect us, and it's going to be this disconnect. And then we end up with like the people that throw trash down on the beach and don't pick it up.
Mm-hmm. It all comes back to haunt us. Every little thing you do matters. Here's
Momo. He wants to go outside. I'm going to let him out because I respect him. Opportunity. Doors open.
I think Boo heard you say the word outside, and then he bolted out of there.
Yeah, it doesn't take a lot for Boo. Momo is like his hearing is going, so we're like, Momo, come and eat. And I look at him; he's just laying down on the bed, like Momo, Momo, Momo. And then he looks at me like cross-eyed, and his hair is all messy. He's like, what? I'm like, come and eat. And he's like, okay. And then he's trying to get up, and his back legs aren't working correctly. Getting old is very cute on him.
Yeah.
I'm just watching poop right now. I mean, you raised kids.
Yeah.
You know about watching poop. You're like, I've got to make sure that looks good.
Yeah. Fortunately, I mean, I guess that's one thing with kids compared to dogs is you have to get pretty dirty at the beginning with the poop. But down the line, they take care of themselves. Yeah. But with the dogs, you always have to pick up after them for the rest of their lives.
He just pooped on the walkway. I'm going to have to go out there after and pick up that. Like, it's funny, like you compare when I first got Momo, when I first got a dog, like the first poops, you're just like, oh, I have to actually like touch this through a bag.
It's warm and it's like, hot.
Fling the bag in the garbage. Like, God.
Right. Yeah. It's
funny poops.
Yeah. It's like being a parent for sure. First time changing a diaper is like nightmare.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Oh man. Well, maybe so. Like us, you're probably getting some cabin fever.
Honestly, no.
Really?
I'm not. Yeah,
You're happy just hanging out.
Yeah, last year I spent the whole year. Because I have been on the road for as long as you guys, or maybe not as long as you guys, but I've been on the road for a long time.
Yeah.
On and off. And you guys are full-time on the road. I'm always like, I come back and I settle for a bit, and then I go. But last year, I felt an urge and a need to ground myself and to find a family or find a home. Find those people, find that place that I feel like I'm at home.
Yeah, because did you feel like that when you decided to move to Vancouver? Because that happened a few years ago, right?
Yeah, and I think it has to do with traveling alone. I mean, you guys are traveling as family, which is such a beautiful thing, and I'm envious, and I love you guys for it. That you're able to do it. It's such a beautiful. It's ideal for me. It's what I would want.
I think both sides have its benefits because I
absolutely.
envy the quietness that you have.
Damn.
I know. I talk to my best friend from childhood once in a while. We keep in touch, and we talk about he has the kids' life and the job's life, and then I have this life that looks free. And then from my perspective, I'm like, dude, you have two beautiful kids and like a career with steady pay and an awesome wife and this great house, and you guys are just like settling and making it work, and such a beautiful thing. And you have routine, which is so healthy. And he's like, dude, you're so free. I'm like, yeah, but I don't know. I think it all comes down to people, and I think it's people are the most important thing. It's inescapable. We are not islands, and we can't pretend we are. And I think for a long time I pretended I was. So I think I'm catching up to that. I'm still catching up to that. But I'm actually really, really enjoying staying still, hanging out with my friends here, working on projects with my feet on the ground. But at the same time, planning on buying a Sprinter and converting it and traveling in it.
Okay, so we talked about this the other day. Is this something that you're ready to share publicly?
Oh yeah, none of that really matters to me. Like I don't really hold secrets from social media. It's all good.
Right. Okay, cool. I know. I mean, some people are real like Volkswagen purists, and and having to tune those people out, probably will be an important thing because even with our friends, like Jason and Angela, they're
right.
They think about, if we didn't get a Volkswagen, what about all of our Volkswagen friends?
If your Volkswagen friends shun you because you don't buy Volkswagens,
it's true, right?
Those are not your friends,
right? Yeah. Exactly. They love your van more than you.
Yeah. You could still be friends with my van,
right?
If you choose to not be friends with me, that's fine. You probably won't get to see my van anymore. I still have Mello, and she's in the shop right now, and I should be getting her back some point in the future, sometimes in the next 10 years. But,
well, I mean, honestly, you can't sell Mello.
I have learned to mellow out on that van. That van has taught me to mellow the fuck out. Can I say that on here?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, you can bleep it out if you need to. So I don't know, get Mello back soon, but I'm thinking in terms of practicality. For one, Mello was never practical to travel in. And the amount of money that I've put into that over the years is just ridiculous. And just to upkeep it. But it's probably because I mostly didn't do the work myself, Right. Which more recently I spent months in the engine bay trying to figure out what was wrong with it. I figured it out, which was great, but it cost me like hundreds of dollars in parts and tools to finally figure it out. But I'm just thinking, like, long term, I want something that my investment comes back to me with. Ultimately, I want to get a sick 4x4 Sprinter and do a really tasteful modification on it, and do the spare battery and the solar and the water in a big tank and the heater, and I might even stick in the air conditioning specifically because of the dogs.
Right. It's true.
For hotter days. And like I'm thinking like this is gonna be the dog mobile, and I'm thinking under the bed will be like dog den because I don't have bikes. And if I have like surfboard, if I do end up doing becoming a Sprinter guy with a surfboard for some reason, because Sprinter guys tend to get surfboards eventually.
You got to be a climber too.
Yeah, I'll have to do that. oh, these are going to be expensive sports.
Maybe not as
no,
expensive as Mellow, but
yeah, exactly. And then in the long run, I have this stuff. I have this van that's converted well, and in a couple years from now, I wanted to have bought land by now, and I think long term my goal is to own land and rescue dogs. I think that's really where my heart is. I know my life is inextricably connected with dogs, and I don't plan on changing that. As the one truth in my life that I could depend on is just dogs. So yeah, I could trade that. Hopefully, if I have to trade that van in for a down payment on a house, and then I'm in a much better position than I would be if I just keep Mellow and keep pouring money into fixing it. And then, what can I sell Mellow for? 20 grand, maybe. And that's in Canadian dollars, which is not a down payment on a house these days.
Yeah. I mean,
shed.
these vans, some of these older 60s Volkswagens are now in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I guess it really kind of depends where the market goes, especially if you're planning on hanging on to it. But even then, it's like, you have so much memory attached to that.
That van is just something I want to keep because I love it.
Yeah.
That's all. That van isn't a financial investment. And like the interior is like pretty custom. So I think over the years I could just like tinker away and get the interior looking really sharp. And then if I ever need to, I could sell it, but hopefully I never need to. And hopefully I could just keep it as like my little anchor to some very good days of my life,
Just go in there and hang out every now and then.
Yeah. Smoke some weed.
Do some justice.
Because that's what you got to do in the Volkswagen.
You got to do it, right.
Yeah.
Right. It's built for that.
Yeah.
So with the Sprinter, like, let's say you have it built out, ready to go. Are you planning on at some point going back out, doing some more extended trips, traveling?
Yeah, I think so. I think for now, next summer what my plan is, once it's ready, is to do Canada. And depending on the state of the world, then maybe go down into the States, maybe do Mexico. But it's the super low or ultra low sulfur diesel, which is apparently not very common in Central and South America. So anything south of the U.S., you have to really search out your gas stations, and I think there are probably maps, but even apparently the gas stations themselves don't know what kind of diesel they have. So if you go there and you say, "Hey, I heard you have ultra low sulfur diesel. Is it true?" They would say, "Oh, no say." Well,
Right.
So, but apparently they're all working on. They're all making strides towards offering ultra low sulfur diesel in like environmental, goals. But I think COVID also slowed a lot of that down. Yeah. I feel like a lot of environmental commitments, which everyone was putting their business at risk to make these environmental goals and commitments and milestones. They're suddenly COVID now, that's also setting us back. So we're going to have to put our environmental goal a little further down. So sorry, Mother Earth.
Right. It's too bad. I mean, but I understand it's either they go out of business or they have to push some things away. And it's also like even the individual people who their choice of what cars to buy is like that too. When gas is cheap, people buy big muscle cars. When gas gets expensive, people buy electric cars and hybrids. Yeah,
that's true. During the peak of COVID, were fuel prices out there absurdly low?
Mm-hmm. We were in Morocco, and Morocco is already low as it is, but it probably dropped 15% there. But compared to the U.S. and Canada, it was still higher. Yeah. I think we're paying 80 euro cents a liter, which is low because in Croatia we're paying 1.3, 1.4 euros per liter, so almost double.
It was crazy here, man. It was it was about $1.50 Canadian per liter, and
Wow.
At the lowest price, I think it was like 40 cents a liter.
40
Like,
cents.
Yeah, it was insane. But
Well, I
nobody
guess-
was going anywhere. Nobody
Yeah.
was doing
Yeah,
anything.
right.
Stations were empty. Like nobody was like, let's fill up the tank. Everybody's tanks were full.
Right.
And
Let's fill up the
then,
tank and just run it on idle for fun.
yeah, just run the car, hon.
Yeah. Let's go charge our
car overnight.
computers with the car running.
It's cheaper to charge it with gas.
Well, I guess right, because at the
was
bottom
crazy.
of the oil prices, it went negative, right? So they were literally giving it away or paying people to
And I-
take it.
The weird part is I feel like, and like I'm probably wrong, but I feel like the lesson out of this is that the less gas we buy, the lower the price.
Of course,
It's
exactly.
like
Yeah,
if there's no interest, the price comes down.
right.
Can we all just work together and drive a little less?
I know. You know, like just humans as a herd do bad things.
We totally do. And even me, I'm like, we should all drive less, and then the gas prices go down, and then I'm driving to the grocery store to get like some apples, and then
Organic
and I'm like,
apples,
oh,
but
I'm
organic.
I'm part of the problem.
Yeah,
I'm not doing what I think people should do, and so
I know.
there's just that we're not. I think it's because our brains aren't connected to each other's brains. If we were just more telepathic, it'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard. People have to try really hard to do the right thing. Even though you know exactly what the right thing is, you still have to really try hard to do it. Even little things like, we keep telling ourselves, let's go to the farmer's market to buy our vegetables. But, we got to go buy Mexican seasoning, and they only sell that at the grocery store. And while we're here, let's get some carrots and potatoes.
Yeah, it's like, oops.
Yeah, only if the farmer's market sold Mexican seasoning or just
Yeah.
anything Mexican at all. We miss that so much.
Oh man, yeah, I bet. Oh, I miss Mexico a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, Mexico. Hey, is this the first episode of your podcast?
Well, so this is actually going to be our 16th episode, but this is the first interview that we've done
First
with
interview,
anybody
that's
who
what-
travel.
Yeah.
But it's
Okay.
actually
We're
what we
relaunching
did.
it.
We're relaunching our podcast because we did like 13 episodes, most of them during the first year, and then our 13th episode was our sort of overview or like
Recap.
retrospective recap of our first entire year in Europe. And this
Okay.
week is our second year. We just hit 2 years, and we just launched episode 14.
Wow.
So really,
Wow.
like, yeah. So yours is going to be like the first interview, but also the first episode of the rebrand, because we're a year ago, a little less than a year ago, we decided that we were launching this new YouTube channel, this new blog called Freely Roaming, which is, people have always asked us about traveling, like tips and tricks. How do we do this? What's it like homeschooling, like dealing with kids on the road and all the normal stuff, mostly revolving around pooping and showering. But we decided that like our Mali Mish Instagram, YouTube has always been a documentation of our lives. And it was something that we created so that we can look back on it when we're old. And we didn't want to clutter that with a bunch of how-tos and top tens and whatever.
Okay, that's fair.
So we're doing this freely roaming thing, and then we decided that a podcast is actually a much better place to do stuff like educational related. So we decided to rebrand our Mali Mish podcast to Freely Roaming Podcast so that we can do interviews with other travelers. We can give people, advice on how to travel or questions that they have. So that's what we did. So we're doing this rebrand. So this sort of is like one of the first episodes of our newly rebranded podcast.
Well, I hope I'm a good first interview guy.
Oh, you are.
We're
you
excited
are-
to see you.
Yeah.
Yeah, same here.
Well, we actually did. We haven't interviewed anybody before, and I love that we're just kind of like catching up and
Chatting. Yeah. People, and then people could just listen to us catching up.
Yeah. And maybe some things they won't even understand, they won't get,
Yeah.
but hopefully
I hope
it's
we're-
cool too.
Well,
But
what can I?
we do have, so we
wrote
did
down
try
some
to do a
questions.
little bit of preparation because we don't know, like, good podcasters have to be prepared, right?
Yeah, you got to do your research.
Yeah.
So I did some research that, like me, Dan Lin is, when you Google Dan Lin, a world champion table tennis player comes up.
Is this your secret identity?
No, I wish I was a world famous table tennis champion. But
Do you?
I Google Andrew Knapp. There's a MLB player,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
he
yeah.
comes up,
Yeah.
and I'm like, wait a minute. This makes
He's
it hard for me to
definitely-
find stuff.
He's a more famous Andrew Knapp than I was. I think when like my name was like, or my Instagram was taking off, and my ego was like, yeah, this is great. And then Andrew Knapp. No, I was like, nobody else by the name of Andrew Knapp is going to be more popular than this. Obviously, this is a rare name. MLB star Andrew Knapp pops up, more famous than I am, comes up before me on Google. Damn it, ego shot. But
Is he
that's
mad
cool.
that
Also,
you have the Instagram handle and the website?
I think he has the Twitter. I
He
have
has
to
the
have
Twitter.
Andrew Elmer Knapp on Twitter. He's like the nappy boy or something. But you know what? Baseball careers are usually short-lived.
Yeah, exactly.
The
Yeah.
body can only endure so much.
He's gonna tear a
Photographer-
meniscus or something, right?
Yes, I hope not.
Well,
hope
I
for
mean-
a happy full career for him. But I think he's like older in the spectrum of baseball players. I hope he watches this. I would love to chat with him. That'd be funny. But
Maybe if he Googles it, maybe if we get this podcast
It's like, I
high
remember
enough in
being
the
on
search
Mali Mish
engine.
podcast.
Well, so we wanted to, as good podcasters, we wanted to kind of give you the opportunity to maybe go back a little bit and talk about like how this all started for you.
Mhm.
You know,
Well, I
I'm
think
sure
that's
you've been
also
asked
good
this
for
a
people
bunch before.
who
by
have
other
no
people.
idea who I am. I should probably give a little bit of a. The people who are the Andrew Knapp MLB.
They're the baseball fans. For the
That are
baseball
here
fans
listening,
out there,
like-
this is for you.
When's he going to start talking about his home runs? That's a baseball thing, right? Home runs.
Home runs, I think, yeah.
You know
Yeah.
it.
I don't know what
Okay.
position he plays. Is he?
We just lost all of the baseball listeners. By
I
the
know
way.
they're like,
Sorry
yeah,
about that.
wrong place.
Um,
You know what? It's
No,
probably good that it's a video podcast too, because you know those people that came for Andrew Knapp, the baseball player, they would hopefully figure it out when they see the video that it's not
Yeah.
the person they see on TV.
I'm going to go as Andrew Knapp, a baseball player, for Halloween this year. Who are you, Andrew Knapp?
You could probably buy a jersey that says Knapp in the back, right?
Yeah, and then just like I think he has like maybe if he has a beard, I'll grow it. Not that I know
Okay,
he
so
does.
even with people that do follow you, you know, I think
Yeah.
they still probably would like to find out something that maybe they didn't.
Okay,
know.
like how it all got started.
Yeah.
The
So
genesis.
how did you get the Volkswagen? How, you know, I mean, I think
Okay.
you've always probably been a dog person, right?
Yeah. Well, I when did I get the van? So I think I always liked to travel, and I always traveled around. I moved out west in my Hyundai Elantra back in like more than 20 years ago. And that was my first big trip. And then I was like, oh, this is fun. You get to go on the road and you get to like not know where you're going, and then you're in a completely unknown area. And then I traveled and moved, and then I kept moving, and I kept trying to hold a job, but I was like, no, jobs aren't for me. So I ended up actually buying a house. I bought my grandparents' house in Sudbury, Ontario, and I bought a Honda Element, and it was green, and I loved it. And I was like, cool, I could probably camp in this thing. I knew nothing about, boondocking or wild camping. I was just like, that'd be cool if I did this. And there was no real internet that was great at the time. So I actually did a big trip in my element. I went down the East Coast to North Carolina, Florida, and then went all the way across to LA, and I lived in LA for the winter, and then I moved up back. I did a box around Canada and the US, and I went back home, back to my house. I had rented my house out to some terrible tenants, and then I got back, and then I bought a yellow Volkswagen, and I bought it for like $4,500 from this guy in Toronto, and I just loved it, and it was all rusted out pretty bad. And then I got the body redone by this guy who just did Bondo, Bondo. And then at that point I was like, okay, well, I have this cool little van. I love it. I'm going to get away for the winter. I think my first attempt to leave in the winter failed. I think I started driving, and then I was like, wait a minute, this thing doesn't have heat. And then it went to like 30 below. And then I kept driving, and I got to like Illinois, and the van broke down in the middle of winter, and I was like, I'm not going to make it to California, because I was looking at the weather map and patterns, and there was this huge snowstorm about to hit like through the whole Midwest, and I was like, I can't drive through that. Like, my tires are shit, my van is freezing, I can't, like, even if I drive for 2 days straight, I'm gonna end up in a ditch. So I ended up going back, and I had rented my house out again. So I went back to Ontario, and then I stayed at my friend's place for the winter until my place became free again.
What year was this?
Oh my God, I don't even know. I hate those questions. I think it was like, man, it must have been like 10 years ago. Not quite. It wouldn't have been 10 years ago. Because I think I bought the van less than 10 years ago. But eventually, and yeah, I did have Momo at that time. Who's barking right now? Nobody. Momo! What's going on? Did you hear Dan and Marlene? But yeah, and so I think somewhere in all that, I decided to sell all my stuff and hit the road with Momo in the yellow van. And this was like my second attempt, and actually leave. And so I started traveling with the dog. And before that was when I started taking photos of him hiding in like the bushes, because that's what you would just do it naturally. And then that went viral. And this was like, virality has changed over the years. Virality is now something that almost anyone can achieve if they get a TikTok account. And, TikTok is built basically so that you can go viral. Like, almost everyone can go viral on TikTok, right? You can wake up the next day and your post has like 1 million or 2 million views, and you're like, wow, I went viral, I feel really good. And you get that dopamine rush. But this was back in the day, someone went viral.
Right. The idea of virality.
What's that?
The idea of virality back then was, you have to have you have to be at some kind of critical mass in order for you to get 100,000, 1 million subscribers. But now it's like there's so many people on these networks now. Getting 100,000 or 1 million subscribers and followers is not like as big a deal anymore.
I feel like it's been automated. Like, we used to, like, going viral used to mean that you were picked up by some sort of blog like BuzzFeed, which was super popular back then for virality, right? And I think that's pretty much what happened to me. And then the news channels, which were still relevant in making things go viral. Now the news channels are like, check out this TikTok that went viral. Before it was like, check out this interesting thing, and then it will go viral. Because I think it was like human sourced back then. You had actual people like scraping the internet, trying to find these things that would be cool, that were like somewhat picking up in popularity in their little bubble, like on Instagram or on Facebook or wherever. And then they'd be like, oh, let's blow this up. And it was handpicked. Like, the person who is responsible for me going viral, her name is Bailey Richardson.
Wow.
She was one of the early employees at at
That name sounds
yeah
familiar.
at
Actually,
Instagram.
at Instagram, that name sounds familiar because
She was on.
our friends had a
Do you remember?
contact with Bailey.
Oh yeah. She's awesome, and she was just in that the Social Dilemma documentary that came out on Netflix. They interviewed her for that one. But and she has a book out too. She's just a wonderful person. She was like all about community. And she was like, "Hey, your dog thing is cool. You mind if we share it on the Instagram page?" I was like, "Oh yeah, that'd be cool." And so that happened, and then book deal, and then life changed. And it's funny to be able to pinpoint it to one person, because I think we're losing that humanity also as the internet gets automated, as virality becomes more of a artificial intelligence thing, because it's based on algorithms now, I suppose. It's like, oh, this is gaining popularity at this rate, and it's this sort of content based on the image, and which I think is, I don't know. That's interesting, huh? Like a lot more things go viral these days. But
I think this whole thing with artificial intelligence too is just by nature artificial. Like AI requires a huge data set for it to be smart enough to figure out what works. And maybe over these last 10, 12 years, there has finally been enough enough data uploaded to the cloud that they've been able to figure out the magic formula. Whereas before it was just the luck of the draw, or the perfect timing. Everything has to be just right.
Exactly. Or they keep accruing more information now, more data.
Yeah.
Which makes
Instagram
it more,
too.
You gotta watch that.
So Instagram they've always had, I don't know how it is now, but they've always had a really good community team that goes and seeks out people that are thriving in the community, that doesn't even they were so good at trying to find people that would naturally be good at it anyways, and then just push them in the right direction. I don't know if they're still that way.
Yeah, and I believe that.
But I feel like that
I
they've
believe
lost
that they're
that
still
a little
there.
bit.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think you always have people with heart, and you always have people with drive, and in situations of power, you always have people who are going to abuse it, and I think that's nothing is safe from that, pretty much, and that's just the way that it is. And I think these platforms have grown to a size that is just unsafe, and completely self-regulated, which is kind of terrifying. And in a time of social revolution, it just seems more important than ever that everybody start acting a little more responsible. I think in terms of everything, in terms of absolutely everything.
You can't.
And I think
what you used to be able to do. Yeah, we'll probably have a little delay.
Why do we have a delay?
Because we're halfway around the world, I guess. Probably
What's going on? Technology, you're failing us.
I know.
We're 7,000. There should be no delay.
Why can't they make light go faster?
We were having bad weather here, so maybe it's us.
Maybe it's us, but hopefully it's not breaking up. That could be bad. But for social media to keep doing what it used to do, I think it definitely has to change. I feel like you're saying, we can't use it like the way we used to. We just people are relying on it too much, and then the things that you see, like especially with the 2016 and the current U.S. election, we can see that it's having major effects on everybody in one of the biggest countries in the world. And I don't know what the solution is. How do you get?
Nobody knows what the solution is, and I think that's part of the problem, is that we don't have any clear, because it's like we're on uncharted territories. We're no one's ever done this. What we've done before, we've never seen it before. We've never managed readily available information and the ability to share information at your fingertips to literally everyone. The ability to influence people the way that we do. it's just and not to mention the psychological impact of everything, which I think is a huge thing. Even for me as a grown adult, my connection to technology is unhealthy, and I actively try to work on that, with mindfulness and with removing it. But forceful removal is never good either. Like abstaining from something is never good. You just want it more, and then when you come back to it, you use it more. So there has to be some sort of natural and balanced removal of this stuff, and it comes down to a lot of self-control. I remember there was this guy that lived in my hometown. He was this kind of like, he was a guy who was in all rags, and he would walk around downtown all the time and yell at people, and he was an interesting character. And the one conversation that I had with him that made sense, he was talking about how self-control should be implemented into school curriculum, and that always stuck with me. I was like, damn, that's so true.
Yeah, right. He sounds like he's got it more figured out than the rest of us.
Yeah. In some ways.
Right. Maybe not fashion, but definitely self-control. So that was Sudbury.
That was Sudbury, yeah. And also to rewind a little bit, I wanted to commend you on your Mali Mish on your Instagram. This is from earlier. You mentioned your Instagram, and I just wanted to say that I always love your posts, and I always love your photos. And like your photos are just pure heart, like they're real. You're not trying to create a moment where there is none. You're finding moments where they are, like, and I just love it. I just love looking at your posts and seeing your updates with your kids and with you guys and with what you're doing. And I feel the reality of those moments. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much. That really means a lot.
You're going to make Marlene cry.
Yeah. I appreciate it.
She cries easily,
What are you shooting with?
I have a Sony A6600. That's not what you're seeing, though. You're seeing the MacBook camera. But I've got a camera.
No, I know.
Oh, this is Dan's microphone.
Oh, this.
No, I mean for the photos.
Oh, for the photos.
On your Instagram.
Yeah, we have.
I mostly shoot on what is it?
Well, so I had decided that I needed to have like a backup camera before we came to Europe. So before that, Marlene was shooting. For a while, Marlene was shooting just on her iPhone 6 first, and then 7. She still has her iPhone 7. We're pretty old school that way.
I went through a phase where I'm like, I'm only using my phone on Instagram. Like, I was like hardcore about
anything
that.
Else
for
is
some
cheating.
I'm like, why?
Yeah, but then
did you feel guilty when you?
Yeah.
Just for a minute.
And it's like, oh, these pictures are way better. I should just stick to this. That was a dumb thing I did.
So we got a
Marlene,
Fuji.
you take
Fuji
most of the
XT10.
photos that go up there?
It used to be 50-50, but now it's mostly me.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So for the last, I want to say...
The drone shots are by Dan.
Yeah.
Yeah, drone shots are by me. Marlene gets mad at me that I don't contribute to the photos anymore, but sometimes I contribute to the words.
Yeah.
So, and now she primarily shoots on a Canon G7X Mark III, which is just a little point and shoot.
Cool.
But it takes great photos.
Yeah, it's easy.
Point and shoots shoots these days are crazy.
Yeah, crazy good.
And there's the new Sony A7C, right? There's like the new full frame.
That's the new one that just came out. It looks crazy.
Yeah, looks nice. I mean, I don't know. I never really liked the Sony controls, so it kind of kept me away from ever going Sony again. I had the A6500 for a little bit.
Oh, you did? I thought you were always a Canon.
I love the photos. No, I mean, I'm not faithful to anyone or anything. I guess that's why I'm alone. No, that's a joke.
To Momo.
But I got another girl. No, A6500. I actually loved the photos that came out of it, but I didn't like the controls. I really didn't like figuring out how to take the photos and go through the menu system, and then I also dropped it in the water and it stopped working.
So back to Canon it goes.
I still have it.
You still have it,
but it
doesn't work.
Yeah.
Well, we actually switched to Fuji for a couple years. Some of our photos were taken on a Fuji X-T10, and like speaking of like the difference in control, like the Fuji really uses a different sort of concept of, controls, how you control your shutter speed, aperture, and ISO. So that took a little bit getting used to, but I really love the way Fuji's looked. The way that their color science comes out just looks so, it's so like silky, like smooth, beautiful. But it got.
I've been looking at the X100V. Which is
the X100 series is great.
I've been considering it. I've been shooting. So I'm a Canon guy for like professional, and then I got a Leica Q2 as a point and shoot because I wanted to have a camera. I was feeling pretty down on photography, and I was like, I'm going to invest in something that I love so much that I want to take out with me everywhere. So I invested in the most expensive camera I could find. It's not true. There are more expensive cameras, but it's pretty.
But Leica's up there.
But it's also an investment. I could sell it and get my money back, which is great.
Right.
But I got the Q2, and it is a nice thing to shoot with. Even the video, I really love it. I love the glass on that camera. It's so small. And the resolution is insane. The photos are like 90 megabytes.
Oh my God.
Which is too much. Yeah, they're DNG. I think they're a little bigger because they're DNG, but they're
raw photos.
It's all that hard drive space now too.
I'm selective. It's almost like I'm shooting film and I'm like selective at which photos I take because I'm like, this is going to be 90 megabytes.
Which actually it's actually a positive thing, right? Because you do the work that you used to have to do when you're shooting film, and also because it's a rangefinder camera too, that you also have to be really mindful of how the camera operates. Yeah. So it forces the photographer to do their work on top of having it mechanically beautiful and churn out good photos.
Yes. I do like that.
So how did you, we're talking about cameras, which I guess it makes sense for us to ask. How did you get into photography? Like you were saying that, you were already on Instagram when you started traveling, so you were already into photography before. And is that what you were doing also professionally before Instagram?
No, I studied graphic design in college, and I am by trade a graphic designer, and I love design, and I love like branding. I love like illustrating and doing that kind of stuff, which I'm trying to incorporate a little more into my work. But I started photography when I was a lot younger. My dad had a work camera that was it was one of the first digital cameras that ever existed. It was by Apple, and it was called Apple Quick Take. And the Apple Quick Take is this. It looked like a little spaceship. And it had the like rainbow Apple logo on it. That's how old it was.
And it was the John Scully era when they were.
Do you remember VGA? You remember the resolution VGA?
It's 640 by 480.
Is it 640? I thought it was 320 by 240.
Oh, but I think that's Q. That's QVGA.
Oh, is that Q? It might have been QVGA, and then there was like RVGA. But it was a very low resolution camera, and
but it was the future.
And you can store up to like 24 photos on that thing at a time. So then you would transfer them to the big 386 CPU and load up Corel Photo Paint.
Right. And your editing was like dot by dot.
Yeah, what I would do, I remember I would bring my photo, I would take photos of my dog, my family dog TJ, which is a border collie, and and then I would bring it into Photoshop, and then I would put his head on my body or my head on his body, or like I would like smudge. Remember like using the smudge tool to smudge my neck so that my neck was really long, right? And like coming off of his body. And I remember doing that. I feel like I put that on a 3.5-inch floppy disk, and I put it in a safe box, and I like threw it in the attic in my parents' place or something.
Oh man, I think you got to go find that and make that your new profile photo.
Yeah, it probably has a note on it that says like "Do not open until 1994."
Right, way in the future.
Yeah. Okay, I followed your rule. But yeah, that was my earliest entry into photography, and then I really enjoyed it. And then in college, there was a film photography class, like a darkroom class that was built into the program, the graphic design program. So I ended up getting a film camera, and I really loved it. And then in my first job, which was I was a web designer for a advert gaming company in Ottawa. They made games that were ads for companies like Mini, like the car, like BMW, like FedEx. And they just like built these viral games in early internet days. And my job was like making the skins for the games. Like if it was like a driving game, I'd be making the roads. And I remember I put my friends' like faces into like the trees, in the
little Easter eggs.
Yeah. I was a lot of fun. But there's a guy that worked there, Pascal, and Pascal was the in-house photographer, and he was like very like artistic photography guy, like hair back, like hello, we're gonna make some photos today, and he was getting rid of an old Canon camera, and
I hope he listens to this.
What's that?
I hope Pascal listens to this.
And yeah, he sold me his camera. And also I was influenced by my uncle, who he's a photographer, and he's always been a photographer. And he used to travel to Europe, and he would take photos of doors. You know, I feel like a lot of people do that photos of doors project.
Yeah, guilty. Guilty.
But I mean, why not? They're beautiful. It's like photos of sunsets. They're beautiful. Keep shooting them, you know.
Well, especially the old chippy ones.
Yeah, and it's so important. It's so important because I saw these door photos that he was taking. And the concept of theme, you know, was there. The concept of like, return to this similar theme and pull this theme through your project. Right. And he was. I loved him. He's still alive, even my uncle. And but he definitely inspired me to get into photography. I liked the idea of traveling and taking photos, and so I ended up taking trips with the sole purpose of bringing my camera and getting photos out of it, which is really nice. And then so all these these little tidbits along the way. I think that's like, that's the beautiful side of creativity, I suppose, and like the creative spirit and like creating, is that if you do it, you're likely to inspire someone else to do it, even if it's in their back pocket for later. I was talking about this with a friend actually because I went sober on my birthday this year. I stopped drinking because because quarantine was killing me, and it was getting in the way. I felt like this is the one thing I could remove from my life and like really start to work on myself. And yeah, it is, I gotta say, the best decision I've made in years, maybe in decades. I've never felt so good about something that I've done for myself in as long as I can remember. But I was chatting about that with my friend who had also quit. And she was like, it's been over a month and a half now, and I feel amazing. And she's like, I did it because you did it, and I was inspired. And I was like, and I did it because someone else did it, and they were, but they did it years ago, and I kept that in my back pocket. And that's just there. That's just always like, you think about it, you go on with your day, but then it's there, and then you notice something that might, or like I go through a night of drinking, and I'm like, I wake up the next day, and I'm like, man, I really like what Jesse did a few years ago. Maybe I should take a year off. Like really, really feeding into my thoughts, and then eventually it happened, and then my friend does it because I do it, and then who knows which one of her friends will do it because she does it. And I was just saying that's the beauty of sharing culture and I guess like connectivity in general, is that we can talk about these things and share these things. And the beauty of you guys sharing your life and inspiring others to do the same, even if you don't ever see it happen, even if it doesn't happen in the next 10 years.
I guess
these things are there.
Right. It's the concept of planting that seed, right? Once that seed is there, it could maybe stay dormant for a couple of years, but it just, the perfect condition with the right amount of sunlight, the right amount of moisture, that seed could sprout. Yeah. So maybe, sounds like quarantine was that light and moisture for you, for the seed that was planted in you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And we're all walking around with pockets full of seeds, right?
Right.
And there's also the huge element of will and choice. And, you have the choice to ignore the seed, or you have the choice to plant it. And it is your choice to do. But I guess with me, it was like, felt the calling, felt the truth. It was just like this undeniable truth and voice that said like, hey, it's, you're going to take a break now. That you have no say in this. I was like, oh, okay. All right. Okay, good. And it was not like it was God or anything. Unless you want to call it that, but it was like this truth, the absolute truth. And it was something I couldn't ignore or escape. And I think, yeah, like to the same degree, there was a little bit like photography, like picking up a camera. It's just, you do things because you feel like doing them. Because something inside of you tells you to do them. Like, why do we do anything, I guess?
Yeah, now you've got seeds planted for sure. I mean, I've never really thought about it, but like we go through college, we go through like pre-kids, and we go to parties, and we do all this stuff through our lives, and everybody have these memories, or maybe the lack of memories of like regretting, like, oh, why did I have the last beer the night before? Why did I take that shot with my friend Sal? Like that was such a dumb idea. There's never a morning where you wake up, you're like, I'm glad I drank so much last night.
Yeah, I'm so happy I drank.
I feel great.
Yeah, so I could totally relate with you don't have to have a problem with drinking to stop drinking. I think that's the other thing too. People feel like, oh no, you had to stop because it was a problem for you. But I think it's a choice that people can make. Just like you said, like it, if you know that it will make you feel better, even if it's not affecting the rest of your daily lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, so do you think that you'll stay away for the foreseeable future, or are you just
I'm taking a year off? That the goal for me is 1 year. I stopped on my birthday, and it's a retroactive gift that I'm going to give myself on my next birthday. I'm going to celebrate my next birthday and say, here's 1 year. 1 year retroactively, you now have 1 year of complete straight edge sobriety. Like, there you go. Do whatever you want with that. So going forward from there, I'm going to make up my mind. If I could have a healthy relationship with it again, I might. But I don't. I'm not going to give myself the pressure of trying to figure that out yet. And also, it was like another, like talking about like going out and having that extra shot and waking up the next morning and feeling bad about it. That's okay too, right? That's absolutely fine. And I think the idea also of forgiving myself before every time I did that was huge. And understanding that every single one of those was just an opportunity and just a lesson, just another lesson. And that's how many I needed, 20 years of lessons before I decided to do that. And that's just how I grow. That's just how I grow. And it's also I feel like you guys have probably a pretty healthy relationship with it. We've had some drinks before. And you guys have managed to raise a family and have a super functional life. Whereas I think my relationship with it was definitely less healthy than yours. And in past years, way less healthy. It has impacted some of my friendships, and it has impacted my work, and it was impacting my health. So it was the point where I was like, okay, this is really something that I should have probably ditched a long time ago, but I didn't. And I didn't, and I have to forgive myself and accept that I didn't, and that's okay. The way that I do it is just the way that I do it, and there is no right or wrong in it. There's just the way and the lessons you pull out of it along the way, and the new truth that you hold whenever you get there. So I think you guys are fine.
I think that's a really, really important way to think about it, because we're not the same people. No one is the same person to the next. So people have to figure out ways to do things that work for them.
Yeah. I've been reading a lot about breathing exercises, and there's a lot of different breathing exercises out there. And you get into any world of breathing. The reason breathing exercises are so important is because they are the only way, or the main way, that we control the autonomous nervous system in our body. We have the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system, which are the two main autonomous nervous systems in our body. And we can control that with our breathing. So I've been reading a lot about breathing exercises, and there's specific breathing exercises. A lot of them have to do with count in and hold and then count out. And do that and repeat. Because if you're stressed out, you're breathing less. And so your sympathetic nervous system kicks in and stresses you out more. But if you're calm and relaxed, you're breathing deeper and slower, and usually through your nose, and that calms you, and that triggers your heartbeat to go down and all this other stuff. And it's all automatic, but your breathing can control it. But what I'm learning is that, like you said, everybody has a different body, a different system, and different requirements. So there is no you can't read a book about breathing and follow the rules strictly and say, okay, I'm going to do it like everyone else does. I'm going to suddenly become a better person. What sort of breathing you should practice, and that kind of thing comes down to. This is becoming a spirituality podcast now. Sorry, but no, to each person, and discovering yourself and discovering what you need and what your body needs, and adjusting your life to that. That would come full circle to me wanting to stay still, rather than traveling all the time, because my traveling was also COVID, which is also tied into my drinking, which is also tied into shallow breathing or whatever. It's all the same, that it all circles back, and it just has to do with finding your ground and your center, and living your life truthfully and better, so that you can be better for other people, I suppose.
That's actually what I was thinking exactly, is that somehow all this ties together, right? The traveling, the photography, the quitting drinking, the wanting to settle and wanting to do all these things that you're currently doing now. It really makes sense when you're joking about this being a spirituality podcast, but it really makes a lot of sense to me. For you wanting to do this at this phase in your life, and saying you're happy staying put in Vancouver for the time being, because being able to do all this stuff is all because of that.
Okay.
This is making up for 3 years of not hanging out with you guys. We've got some catching up to do.
Well, I'm hoping.
And I love talking about all this stuff. So
I foresee a sprinter trip to Baja in a couple of years.
Cool. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, we're gonna redo the memory of Playa Escondido and
Mulahey, the orange
one
grove.
beach with the orange groves.
Yeah, oh my god, the fresh orange trees, the oasis.
All you can drink and squeeze.
Yeah, we. Okay, so it's not just the Mexican food; it's just Mexico in general we miss.
So we told the kids we were going to interview you, and one of the kids piped up. What did they say again? It's like, I really hope Boo doesn't get lost on Halloween, and Andrew has to scream around the neighborhoods yelling "Boo," and everybody's ignoring him, and he's going to have such a hard time finding that dog.
That's so funny. Because also I've learned that screaming "boo" really loud when people aren't expecting it could actually scare people.
I bet.
I have had the situation where I was behind two ladies and one of them had a stroller and Boo had run off past them and they didn't see me behind them and I yelled out "Boo!" right behind them, and they were startled and turned around and they're like, "I have a child here, and you're screaming at us, Boo!"
That's funny.
Yeah, because I think this came up because the kids are always talking about getting a dog or a cat or something, and one day we will, and I think one day we will also have land and build something ourselves and stuff like that. But we did talk about very specifically, you got to think about what you name your dog because you got to imagine screaming your dog's name when he or she is lost and what that sounds like. So I think that's why that comment came up.
That's so important.
And then we...
that's important to think about that.
Yeah. And, Boo is actually good in the sense that it's very easy to say loudly, so you can get the dog to hear you. But if you named your dog Mildred or something, right, that would be a difficult name to
the kids were
scream loudly.
Yeah, they were having Mr. Snuggle Pants or something. It was that's a lot of syllables to scream out. You need a nickname.
Your kids would name a dog well, I feel like. Maybe not. Maybe it wouldn't pass the scream test, but
right. I don't think it would pass the scream test.
I feel like it would be a good, funny name. Also, Mildred is a really good dog name.
There's something about naming a dog a non-dog name, a very human name, right? Like naming we met a couple in Morocco, and they had a dog named Bob. It was very interesting name for us because Bob is not a dog name, but it was to them. But who is really to say that it's not a dog name?
What's a human name and what's not?
Yeah,
yeah. I remember I was in California once camping at Big Sur, and there was no campsites available there, obviously, because you have to book them months in advance. Right. This was years and years ago, and me and my friends. We found some of the people that were camping, and we were like, maybe they'll let us camp on their campsite. We were like, hey, are there any campsites for you? And they're like, no, and they didn't want us there. But then they were like, there's some guy in the woods up there blasting music. I think he has a good little spot. There might be more room there. I think you could camp there for free. And we're like, okay. So we found this guy in the woods blasting music, and he was this chill, surfer dude, a little older, probably in his mid to late 40s, and he was he had a big old dog with him, and he was super cool, and we hung out with him all night, and he was not harmful, he was just a nice, friendly man, and I think his dog was really old, and he was spending the last kind of trip with his dog. because he was from Ventura and he had like a wife and kids there, and he showed us pictures. And he was a chill dude. And
that's where we're
his
from.
Dog's name was Ventura. Cool.
Yeah.
His dog's name was Sequoia Dark Star Purple Bear.
Well,
and I will never forget that name.
And his dog is not lost. So our theory is completely blown by this theory, by this fact that he has this dog that has a name is not screamable, but he had the dog his whole life and is living the last days out with him at a campsite. That goes our theory.
Sequoia Dark Star Purple Bear.
Well, we also
I think because you shortened a dog's name.
Yeah. Well, right. Probably you have to.
Like Sequoia Dark Star Purple Bear is probably like Suki or something like that.
Right.
You know?
Give it a nice
Koi.
short nickname. We also like to make fun of Marlene. I mean, we don't like to. It just happens. Because she's had bunnies in the past. She's had birds in the past. She never had dog or cat, but all the pets that she's ever had, she's named them... Her and her brother had two bunnies, one black one, one white one, and it was named Whitey and Blackie. And then she had a bird, and it was named Birdie.
Come on, I was a kid.
So
don't forget Henny.
Oh, and then she had a
My sister had a hamster. I think she called Hammy, and then she had a teddy bear that was called Berry Bear Bear.
Okay, so. You know where we're coming from. Yeah. So that's why I think the kids are kind of going in a different direction when they call a cat like Mr. Snuggle Bear or something. Snugglebutt. Snugglebutt.
Hey, what other questions do you have? Do you have more questions?
We do.
What number are we on?
I think we're on the 5th one.
Okay, so you've answered a lot of them already just by our conversation.
Oh, good. I thought we were on question 1.
Well, one of the things we wanted to learn from you is traveling with a dog. I know it's a little bit harder because a lot of national parks don't allow dogs. So what's like any advice if somebody's wants to travel and wants to spend time in nature also?
I think it's true that a lot of national parks don't allow dogs. And I think it's a matter of choice. If you want to travel with your dog, you should. If you don't, you shouldn't. And it's also a matter of perspective because there's also a lot of national parks that do allow dogs. So you could, I always just say that it's a different experience than you're going to have otherwise. And whether it's a better or worse experience, nobody is ever going to be able to tell. You could bring your dog and you could end up breaking your leg, based on the adventure that you have with your dog. Or you could not bring your dog and you could end up getting pulled over by a cop. There's no experience that is like, and it's all a matter of do you want to bring your dog or not. I think traveling with a dog is awesome, and it does limit you in some ways, and it does open it does open your horizons a lot more too. And for me, I think it had a lot to do with social, like interactions. I have social anxiety, so like being around people and meeting new people is pretty nerve-wracking for me. So it's really nice to have the dog there as a rounding element, a common element. That's why I'm pretty much always talking about dogs with people. Because it's like, don't bring the attention to me. Look at the dog. But yeah, so for me, it's a really good thing to have a dog for that, and it's a good thing to have a dog. It gets me out. And I think one of the most important things when traveling is, A, having a destination, but B, being open to what's on the road on the way to that destination. And I think having a dog often sets the destination for me. If it's too hot out, then I'm looking for a lake. And where I wouldn't typically, if I didn't have a dog, I probably wouldn't really ever swim in lakes. Before I got Momo, I didn't really do much hiking or anything at all either. So it was getting dogs that brought me out there and brought me into nature. And I'm like, oh, I have a border collie. I have to run him a lot. So I'd be hiking a lot. And now you have a border collie and it's 30 degrees Celsius, 100 degrees Fahrenheit outside. We had to find a lake. So now I'm swimming with my dog. So I think it creates opportunities, but then you get to the point where you're like, okay, well, I'd love to go to a restaurant, but I can't. So do you have an Airbnb that you can leave your dog out at after he's been taken care of, or B, is it safe for you to leave your dog in your van with the weather? That's why I want to get air conditioning in case I do want to. Or can you find a restaurant that's dog friendly, which is always fun to do, always hard to find because it's not something that people could advertise if they allow it. Because in Canada, it's not legit. In the US, it's mostly not legit, but it's a little bit better than Canada. At least in like San Diego is really dog friendly, and there are some like dog friendly restaurants in the States. And then Europe is amazing. That's why I love Europe. It was like a lot easier to travel around Europe and go into restaurants. And even in Mexico, I feel like there are countries that don't allow dogs. There are countries that do allow dogs, and then there are countries that have not decided. So when you propose to them to bring your dog in, it depends how you ask them. So like Canada's not dog friendly. You can ask, they'll tell you no. Something like Berlin, very dog friendly. You can ask, they'll tell you yes. But somewhere in between, like Albania or even Mexico, it depends how you ask. So you can go up to the owner, or you can not ask and ask for forgiveness, and just say like, oh, I hope it's okay. I'm bringing my dog in. And then there's a language barrier also. And then hopefully they'll let you in. And a lot of times that works fine. So it comes down to restaurants. It comes down to where you're staying, and it comes down to how you're getting around. If you're getting around on public transportation, you're going to need to know the local public transportation if they're dog friendly. Portugal wasn't when I was there. Spain wasn't while I was there. France was way more dog friendly on public transportation, but not all trains. So there's a matter of research for when the world opens up again and people start traveling again. I'm kind of hoping that this opens up. Like, small businesses are suffering and they need to increase their traffic. I feel like they should let people with dogs inside. But people, I'm sure, on the other end of that argument would say, well, no, because they don't want to scare customers away. It's an eternal debate. But I don't want to get into that right now. It'll just make me mad.
Right. I mean, this is something like part of that we can relate with our cat that we travel with, especially the part about the heat inside the van and traveling in bad weather. Our cat didn't swim in lakes, but even in those situations, we want to swim in lakes. Cool. But we always had to figure out how we could leave her inside, and we would just have to not go to places that had that kind of weather, or like you said, sometimes get an Airbnb and putting her in there is the only way to go. Yeah. But all the other stuff about taking to restaurants and going on trains and stuff like that, like that's the stuff that we don't have any firsthand experience with, and also for you, I know that you had put together a YouTube video about taking your dog to Europe years ago, and I come across that on YouTube as a suggested video now and then, and I always like clicking on it, just to give you another view, and also just to see a friendly and familiar face. But,
oh my God, I can't watch that video. I just can't watch my talking head videos. I feel like you guys have normalized like seeing yourselves online. But I don't show my face as much, so sometimes someone asks me for advice on traveling with an airplane or in an airplane with a dog. So I send them a link to that, and I always see my little head
for a split second before you click away.
Yeah.
Well, but was that something that was difficult to figure out before you came? And also, I know that in Europe, for Europeans to travel around the EU, they have to get this like dog or this pet passport. Did you have to do that as well?
I'll get mine. I got that as soon as I landed. Unfortunately, you can't hear me.
We hear you.
I came across it yesterday, so that's why I knew where it was. But I got this when I landed in Portugal, and so it's Portuguese.
Oh, cool.
And then that's basically all the papers that I brought, proving that he had all his proper shots and everything. That was just translated, transferred into here, and just kind of put in there permanently, saying this is a legit dog. It's like it's got more stamps than my passport, and I traveled a lot. I don't know why they have so many. Like, is every single examination you could get like this, like unforgeable sticker with a hologram on it.
Yeah, that is serious.
It's pretty serious.
Yeah,
which is great. Which is an awesome system. Like, kudos to mankind for figuring this one out.
Well, because
a lot of things right, but
Europe has successfully eradicated rabies, so I think that's why they're super serious about it.
Right.
But does every border you cross, like when you were in Europe, did they always look at it, or did they just said, "Oh, it's fine"?
The only time that I had to use it was when going to the UK and using the Eurotunnel. They have a very regimented procedure for getting into and out of the UK through the Eurotunnel. It's like there's an office after, so you have to go to a vet in France when you leave France, and every vet there knows what to do. You bring your dog in for an exam before you leave, and they have to give you like a paper, and then once you get to the other side and you enter the UK, you have to show them this paper. They look at the dog and they look at the pet passport and they stamp it. And they say, okay, he's good. Just to make sure he's got the rabies shot. And I think there's one more shot that he had to get or something. I never know. There's so many like weird dog shots and stuff. You're like, yeah, inject that into my dog. It should be fine. But they do it many, many times a day, right? Because when I got to the other side, it was like, if you have a dog, you have to pull up to this station, and then so you pull up, and then there's a building, and it's just the dog building, and there's like cute graphics on it of dogs, and there's paw vinyl stickers on the windows. You go in, there's a lineup, and everyone in the lineup has the dog and the papers, and they're just checking one and stamping and next and stamping, and you pay them whatever, 20 euros or whatever it was, and then you get in. It was a super well designed system. Worked really well, got in no problem, and got around all Europe with Momo no problem. It was definitely interesting. Like, I remember crossing the borders from Greece to Croatia, because I was getting my papers for my van shipped to Croatia, because I was going to wait in Croatia so that I can do the Schengen thing, and Spain was taking forever to give me my papers. That's why I was stuck in Croatia. But to get to Croatia, I needed those papers, and I didn't realize that. So every border that I crossed, including Italy, France, Italy, Greece, Bosnia, Montenegro, Albania, every time I crossed, they were like, you don't have the proper papers for your vehicle. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to get them. They're being shipped to Spain. And then the first, it was the crossing into, is it Bosnia that's south of Montenegro?
Bosnia is north. Bosnia is mostly inland, but it's north. It's just east of Croatia.
So it was... So Greece into Montenegro.
Greece into it would be Albania that's
like,
south of Montenegro.
Oh yeah. Okay, so Greece into Albania, they were like, yeah, your papers aren't complete for your van, and I was like, there's got to be something I can do, and they were like, give us 10 euros and we'll let you in. Give him 10 euros. Next border, same thing, a little more trouble. And then there was the Albania, and then Montenegro, and then Bosnia. And Bosnia, the guy was like, I can't let you in. There's nothing I could do. And I was like, there's got to be something I could do. And he's like, I'm sorry, your papers aren't complete, and there's no way I can let you in. And then he's like, just wait right here. And I got to deal with this other thing going on. And then I got out, and then the other security guy came. It was this like giant semi-automatic rifle, and he's like, dog. And I was like, yeah, dog. And he's like, dog bite. And I was like, no, he doesn't bite. He's friendly. And he's like, cookie. and I was like, yeah, give him a cookie. He literally meant like chocolate chip cookie. He was trying to give him this chocolate chip cookie, and Momo didn't want it. So I was just like laughing with this guy and chatting with him. And then I was like, look, man, my papers are in Croatia. I have to go get them. And that's why I don't have them. And then he's like, in the end, he was just like, give me 10 euros and you can go in, and I'll stamp you in. It was always just give me 10 euros and you can go in.
Wow.
The one guy I gave him, he's like, give me some money. And then so he gave me, like, they give you your papers back, and he's like, give me these back with money in them. So that is not like, you're not caught on camera giving him like money. So he gave me his papers, and I put in 10 euros and 1,000 lak, which was the Albanian currency. Right. And then I gave him that, and then he took the 10 euros and gave me the lak back. And he's like, I don't want that.
We got Albanian money that we
That's
don't know what to do with.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah, he's like, 10 euros is way more than that.
Right, don't try to dump this on me. I'm not going there.
Yeah. But like, that's how little the dog was a problem. Like, they were like, they didn't even check his passport the whole time. They didn't.
Well, it sounds like Momo actually.
Like, a dog with you.
I mean, it's the opposite of a problem. Momo diffused the Bosnian border issue and got you in because of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, they loved him.
Yeah.
It was great.
I know whenever we're in a situation that it seems like, I don't know how this is going to go, we roll down the windows and I'm like, kids, big smiles.
And you guys wave and say hi.
Yeah, and they're like, hello. And everyone's like, okay, bye.
Yeah. And it's not going to be so cute when they're teenagers.
Yeah.
They're going to be like, hey, what's up?
All emo.
Yeah, all emo with their goth outfits.
Yeah.
I don't know if that'll still be a thing by then, but we'll see.
Yeah, definitely not.
How do you foresee traveling with two dogs? Do you think it'll be a little harder, a little easier in some ways?
It's a lot harder. I've already found it a lot harder. Like, especially that Momo is, but it's also because Boo is a puppy right now. So going into like a restaurant with Momo or a cafe with Momo, even here, isn't possible anymore. Like, there were a few coffee shops and restaurants here that allow dogs inside, and they're not allowed to. But you just bring them in and they're chill with it. Like, you have to just know, or you have to take a chance with it and eventually learn that they're okay with it. So doing that with Momo was fine because Momo knows how to behave and he just lays down next to me. But doing it with Boo, because Boo is a young new pup, there's no way he's sitting still while I'm on my laptop for an hour. You know, he won't give me 5 minutes. He won't give me 10 seconds to sip my coffee. Go like, see, like I do sit on this patio. I go to this little sandwich shop in my neighborhood, and I sit on this little table they have outside with Boo and Momo, and Momo's just off leash, sitting next to me, looking at me for food, and Boo is looking at me for food, but he's also like checking over his shoulder every 8 seconds, just like, oh, is there another dog coming? Is there another dog coming? And when there is, then he just gets distracted, and then I have to pull him. It's like wrangling a toddler. But so I think over time, once Boo mellows out, it'll be good. I think between Momo and me being chill around Boo all the time, I think Boo is learning how to be a little bit more chill, which is good. I think in time, especially hopefully when, if I do the sprinter thing, if that all goes well, and if I end up with that in the spring of next year, then I'll be traveling with both of them. And I think especially with the bigger space for them, it'll be super comfortable. I'm looking forward to it because I've traveled with both of them right now I have a 4Runner that I've converted into like basically the back is a bed. It worked really well for me and Momo, but me, Momo, and Boo, it's a little tight. So I think I'll enjoy a bigger space with them, a camper of some sort.
How was the Vanagon experience for you?
I loved it. I really loved the Vanagon. I kind of regret trading that in for a 4Runner. The 4Runner is way more capable, and I have taken it to some really cool spots because of I wanted to take full advantage of my 4-wheel drive because the 4-wheel drive on the 4Runner is awesome. So I have had a lot of fun. And the Vanagon that I had, it had a good lift and it had a good set of rims and good tires on it. So I was taking it to some fun spots, but more likely to get caught because it's still just a rear-wheel drive. Aside from that, generally the Volkswagen camper setup, the default Westfalia, is really perfect. It's really an awesome setup. I don't know if I've ever Sprinters are awesome because they're bigger. They're way more functional because they're bigger, and that's it. And you can set it up any way you want. But I think the ultimate setup is just the Westfalia setup. Of course, it's like each just like each one of us are individual, are different and have different requirements in our lives. We do have different requirements in a living, circumstance. So you can tailor it a bit when you build your own, which is nice, which I'll be taking advantage of if and when I build out the Sprinter. But yeah, I do miss the Westie. I do miss the Vanagon. And I do have some I have regrets though with every vehicle I've ever bought.
But you can't keep them all, so I guess.
It's brought me here. No. Thank God.
Well, you don't miss the Hyundai or the Element?
The Element was cool, but it was also the 2-wheel drive version.
Ah, right. I guess it's the
but no, I don't miss it.
It's the space that you miss right now being in the 4Runner then.
Yeah. I do miss, and I miss you stop the car and then you just step into the back and then you're in your living space.
Right.
That's cool.
Right.
I miss that.
Our Sprinter is the first camper that we've had that can do that, and I love that. I can't go back. I can't go back to a truck camper where you have to go outside and go around.
Yeah.
Get out, and go around.
Yeah.
I just love it. You swivel your seats and you make your space bigger.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you saying that the Westfalia layout, they've perfected it. I mean, they've had 70 years, 60 years or something to refine every little detail. They don't make the new ones in the U.S. anymore. I mean, they don't sell them in the U.S. anymore, but they still make them in Europe. We just saw a 2018 Westfalia, and it was amazing. Yeah. Amazing.
They're so nice. Yeah. I get why they don't sell them here because I think their numbers wouldn't be high enough. But it's too bad. And it's also, I have regrets not buying one when I was in Europe and just bringing it back here. It would be I'd be making money,
Yeah. Cause I think the Canada rules are different than the US, right? Cause I don't think you have to buy an old one to be able to bring to the US, but in Canada, are you able to bring one back that's newer?
Oh, I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe it's also province to province.
It could be, right? Because I know that we had just had a chat with some Canadians that are quarantining right now in New Brunswick, and they shipped back a Sprinter, a 90s Sprinter, or maybe a early 2000 Sprinter, which I don't think we'd be able to ship back to the US.
Need 25 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're actually always thinking every time we see a cool old Mercedes or because I really like these
pile of cars.
older Mercedes vans that they have here, and I want to buy them
the
all and ship them all
500Ds
back.
and the 408s.
Yeah, they're
really
so
nice.
cool.
Yeah. Oh, I love them. The million mile motor.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. Built to last forever.
Yeah. I was looking for one while I was there. Never found one. A friend of mine's dad bought one here or on the island in BC, and he bought it for like $15,000, and it was camperized, and he sold it I think for $45,000.
My God, I'm
He
sure.
just bought it and sold. His dad's a wheeler though.
Yeah.
His dad's like this is what he does.
I mean,
Swindler.
he got really lucky to find it for $15,000. That's incredible.
I know. Yeah, there was like a guy who was like down and out and took advantage of him or something. Terrible.
Yeah, maybe so.
No, I don't.
So for, I think our last question,
Okay. We have one more question left for you.
as professional podcasters, if you want to tell us about any new projects you have going on and where people can find some of your old projects.
Well, we know you have 5 books now, right?
We have 4 books, and we have a 5th coming out. This is the latest, the Find Momo in Europe. I happen to have them all here in front of me. How convenient. Now, here we go down the sales pitch. These are actually some of the shots from the new kids book.
Oh, cool.
I'll show you. This one I'm really, really happy with. I'll give you a quick glimpse. This is a nice little camping scene.
Aww.
With like
that's
notes
cool.
on it.
Wow. It's like a Wes Anderson movie.
New kids book. Yeah, a very.
Yeah.
Just like, I'm so proud of this this project. This has been so fun to make. And I just finished that. I just sent off like the final files last night actually for that one. So that one's coming out next summer. I got the little pins that can make little pins. Little enamel pins. It says
Awesome.
It says ready to work. And I'm making more of those under the guise of be more like your dog. Just I guess I love dogs. I think people need to be a little more chill like they are. In some ways, not in all ways. Don't just
When
eat
is that
someone's food off their plate in a restaurant.
So when is that 5th book coming out? Is there a date that we can look forward
The 5th
to?
book comes out summer of next year. I don't have an exact date yet, but the social media will tell you. Andrew Knapp on Instagram and andrewknapp.com. Andrew Ulmer Knapp on Twitter, but I don't really do Twitter. But don't get confused with the other Andrew Knapp. He's a baseball player.
We're excited to check it out once it's released. Hopefully we'll have a mailing address to get it shipped overseas.
I feel very special to have gotten a sneak peek with these photos.
Well, oh man, it's really nice to catch up with you guys, and we should catch up again sometime. And I hope to see you again in person someday.
I hope so too, and I can't wait to see how the Sprinter project progresses. I'm very excited about that.
You know what? There is the big possibility that I can't get the Sprinter because they don't let me finance one because I don't have a job. So
positive thinking, Andrew. Positive thinking.
Yeah, it's gonna work. I'm so stoked to get it. Positively.
Well, either way, when we come back to North America, we're going on a trip with you in Mello or
I'm
the
looking
Sprinter.
forward to it.
And
awesome. I'm looking forward to it.
If you need the extra space, you can put Boo in our Sprinter.
Okay.
Yeah, give the kids a taste of having a puppy.
You guys could deal with it.
They can take them on walks. They need to know what it's like to have a dog. If they want a dog, they need practice.
Yeah. No. Yeah. You got it. That's the best way. You should foster one in your van.
Yeah, it's true. But I feel like we would foster fail pretty fast.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. Cool.
Thanks for
really nice to catch up with you guys.
Yeah,
thanks
this
for
was really fun.
chatting with us and being our first interview.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Oh, it's my honor. I'm honored.
So that was our interview with our fellow traveler, van lifer, Andrew Knapp. I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you want to follow Andrew, his Instagram is at instagram.com/Andrew Knapp, and that's Knapp. I'm sure a lot of you guys are already doing that. And if you want to find out more about his travels, or actually find out more about his books, he's got a website at andrewknapp.com where you can find out all 4 of his published books and also the 5th one that's upcoming. Thank you guys, as always, for listening and watching our podcast, and we look forward to see you guys on the next one.